Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Town Hall and both HR Tech Alliance's members and non-members. I'm glad to have you here, and we've got some great news to share with VIP guests who will be coming on here shortly. Just a couple reminders, assuming we get to some of the news after our discussion with the Joynd and Cloud Connector folks. Please do hop into the news page and upvote the news so we talk about stuff you might be interested in. If you don't, then you may do a quick crowdsource vote, or I'll have to pick for you. Jeff, since you're on camera, do you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll pass it to Pierre and Paul in a moment.
For sure. Hi guys, good to be here. I'm Jeff Trombley, CTO of the Cloud Connectors. I manage our iPass team, one of the founders since 2015. Good to see you all.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. I'm Pierre Rousseau, president of Cloud Connectors and co-founder with Jeff. And I've been in the HR tech space for 21 years now and always dealing with integrations. And it's great to be here.
All right. Yeah, today's topic, if you haven't seen it in the town crier that we put out every Thursday morning or on social media, and that's a good thing you're here. The exciting news about the merger between Joynd and the Cloud Connectors. The ink's still drying on the LOI, but we're thrilled to have you folks here to just share a little bit more about what's happened here and where you guys are going.
I'm Paul. I'm one of the co-founders of Joynd, and really excited to be here today to talk to everybody about what we're all talking about, including our merger and what everyone else is up to.
Great. Welcome. And sorry I can't put you in the spotlight because you're driving. So Pierre, if you could tee up the announcement and share a little bit about what was in the press release.
Definitely. So maybe I'll go with some context. So Cloud Connectors, as Jeff mentioned, almost 10 years now, we've been focusing on building integration solutions that are reusable. And we have had the as a competitor for many years as well, and we started having discussions. Earlier discussions were 2019, where we started talking about, hey guys, there potentially could be synergies between both companies, and then COVID hit and everything was sidetracked. But we started about a little over a year ago, starting having these discussions again, and everything was perfectly aligned. Joynd's force and knowledge of the whole industry, and with our technology and our knowledge of the industry as well. So there were synergies across the board. We've been working on this for the past roughly 12 months now. And as you might imagine, in the last couple of months, very intensively trying to finalize everything. And earlier this week, we were able to finally announce that the letter of intent has been signed between both companies, and the full merger agreement should be finalized in January. So we're thrilled. The new company will be, as you might imagine, a powerhouse in the HR tech ecosystem across the board. If we look at Joynd and Cloud Connectors, we have over 1,200 clients. We have close to 400 connectors across the HR tech landscape as well. So huge numbers, and we look forward to delivering our solutions to anyone out there, right? Direct employers, solution providers, HR tech providers that truly will need, that see the benefits of working with a leader in a category like ours. And maybe I'll let Jeff talk a bit more about the actual vision that we have, that we've been having, because our vision is, yet again, strangely enough, Joynd's vision and our vision has been very well aligned, perfectly aligned. And so I think, Jeff, maybe you could take it over and talk a bit more about what our vision was, where we're going, and everything that we've accomplished. I think that'd be good for the folks here to know more.
For sure. Thank you. So first, we will merge all of our technologies, meaning we'll unify everything so that it's interacting with us will be transparent. So we want to act as one platform. What's interesting, as Pierre is saying, is we're both trying to address the same problem, which is deliver highly configurable integration, never sacrifice data richness, and be able to accommodate in the enterprise space very rich integrations. And then we're working both on increasing delivery. So our strategy for where we're moving forward right now, what we're working on is we'll use the Cloud Connectors iPass, and then Cloud Connectors was working on a portal to front for increasing distribution which would be customer facing to address distribution of highly configurable integration for non-technical people. So low code, no code, and just say, here's the systems that I want, and then being able to pick and choose the data, generate entirely the web services, generate everything. So that was what we're doing. And Joynd already had a portal for doing that for background checks and assessments and what they called rapid deployment that was already functioning, and it was working to expand that to the rest of HR. So we had a very similar goal. What we're doing, and the other concept that they were doing a lot of normalization of data, what they call it cloud normal, and also capturing all the functional things that you need to know as you implement. What is particular about each system, things that you know that the actual field experts do. Right now, what we're working on is we'll do a combined portal. So we're already looking at merging that. So we'll do a combined portal that will enable distribution and implementation of highly configuration of anything in the HR space. That's the goal, that will bring technologies from both platforms that will be merged. So basically being able to do the data mapping, generate the web services, also see normalization of data, pre-mapped entity based on whatever you're doing, based via standardized model in the middle. So pre-mapping that, throwing AI, capturing field knowledge, so the whole everything basically that you can imagine, to being able to implement faster, highly configurable integration that will match implementation from the customer. So that's already in the works. We're working the product management team together, and that's actively been going. As Pierre said, the discussion started a while back, but from a technology perspective, I would say we're probably 2 months in fully working full time together to make that a reality, and that's actively in the works already. So pretty
Paul,
excited
maybe
about
if you
that.
want to add a few comments to what Jeff
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that I certainly second everything, or third everything that Jeff and Pierre said. We've known each other a long time. We even many years ago were looking at the Cloud Connectors platform for certain integrations. And one of the things that we talked about is because we stayed certainly friendly despite being competitors, was that we found that our biggest competitors weren't each other. They weren't other firms doing anything similar to what we do. They're vendors that are building their own integrations. And that desire to keep things in-house and to own the solution and the tech and to host it and keep the data and that's what the justification typically was, in addition sometimes to it's so expensive to outsource it. We felt like we know certainly, because we've all been on the other side of this, that they are making mistakes often. Now, some are really good at it and have done a great job. HireRight's a good example. The background space, and certainly there's some excellent integration portals out there, but they're few. They're the exception, not the rule. The rule is that vendors do this work on their own. They start to absorb a lot of development cost. They have to reallocate development costs often from from their core product development, which is never a good thing. It cuts back on innovation. They end up with their backs against the cost wall, because now they're sitting in a sunk cost situation where they put a lot of money into integrations and they didn't realize how much would have to go into maintenance and how much technical support would also be involved in just helping their customers navigate the integration. So we knew that these were issues, and we felt like if we were together, we could better highlight them, just present them back to the market, again, as a unified voice, and really start to better compete with these competitors, the very vendors that we want to partner with. So we're excited to get there and doing this together. We've evaluated a lot of technologies over the years, and we knew coming in that this is the best platform for integrations in the HR tech space. And that's coming from I would have told you that a month ago as a competitor under secrecy. But the reality is we knew that this is the best piece of tech in the space, and a great team and a great development team. And we're really excited to sell together and to go to market together with this product and the new product that Jeff has been describing.
Thanks, Paul.
My pleasure.
Any questions from the group? Do you want to hop in here before I ask a couple of my own?
I'll just voice that being in the background screening industry for 23 years, I've experienced firsthand those challenges that Paul was mentioning, developing integrations and prioritizing that over other internal projects, as well as maintaining those integrations and having to update an API every so often. That is a big problem facing the industry.
the things that, as all of you have heard and I've seen, is that users say that the number one problem in the HR tech landscape is integrations, right? And for us, it's like, why is that, right? And I know that's because they're not seeing eye to eye with our vision and what we're doing and using our service. Because for us, the way we see integrations is shouldn't be a pain. It should be a game changer, and it should be how you differentiate yourself from your competitors. So that's our vision from Joynd, from Cloud Connectors. That's always how we've approached things. And so we're eager and we're looking forward to just being able to help and as many vendors out there in the community to truly transform this pain point into something that's going to be a game changer and a competitive edge for anyone.
One of the questions I was going to ask, and Paul already answered it. So much for rehearsal, Paul.
Sorry.
I'm teasing, but yeah, it's what is the big competition out there, and those that like to internally build it, and that's hard. It's just fraught with errors, and the brave people on the call today and their teams are the ones to take it on for you. That's the way to go. Plus, you get somebody else's throat to choke then if it doesn't go well, right?
If I can, Ward, it's not just a throat to choke, although you're 100% right. It's having a team of experts that are your partners that are available to address very difficult or complex or new problems or questions, particularly with large enterprise employer sales. So a ready to go off the shelf solution for integrations that maps 20 data fields or 8 data fields according to a rigid workflow isn't going to work for a global employer that's hiring in multiple languages and has slightly different workflows in different parts of the world. So having a partner that has a deep domain knowledge as an asset to bring to bear in those circumstances is even more important than the chicken neck to ring.
Completely agree. And when I was product manager at Connexa, their onboarding and ATS product, the integrations we had with different tools, some of them internal companies that Connexa owned, that was a nightmare. So my throat was getting choked. I wish I had somebody else because we were using Boomi as an internal solution and it was problematic. I wish somebody else, experts, as you pointed out, would have handled it. Probably most of the issues never would have happened. And that's a key differentiator to your point for the enterprise level, and particularly the Fortune 500. GE would phone and call and complain. We knew something was up because they had a right to complain, but they got 75 business units around the world. Zapier is not going to cut it, right?
You know what? You bring up a really good point. All of our industry folks, maybe ourselves included, are commenting on the trends for next year. And actually, Steve Hunt had a really critical post that went out about everyone who puts out predictions. But one thing that you cannot deny is that the tech stack is getting more and more complex, particularly for the large employers. So this idea of one vendor to love, one throat to choke, that the big guys had been selling, it's just not true, and it's not the way of the future. So the tech stacks are getting more and more complicated and the criticality of making sure that the data flowing among and between the systems is not causing downstream collateral damage at the employer level is more and more critical. And so that's one of the things I see it's really exciting is bringing integrity and a solution to what is really, when you're on the employer side of it, is just a flippin' nightmare.
Nice. Yeah, very true.
It's that inner HR person in me, the stuff that's not on my LinkedIn profile, that decade in working for large companies. So we had to clean it all up. And so it's only gotten worse since then. But the vendors, of course, they get asked by the buyers, do you integrate? And they're asking the wrong question. It's like, how well do you integrate? And then
Quality is
we need
key.
to change that
Yes.
conversation, I think.
That's right. Quality is key. Yeah, we only have our uptime's 99.5%. And okay, what happens during 0.5% of time, right? That's the kind of thing, right? You got to have higher numbers. Looking at other industries besides HR, because that's what I love about you guys, are both Joynd and Cloud Connectors very focused on HR tech. I'd say exclusively as far as I know, right? And there's other suppliers out there that do all industries. And how do you think HR tech integrations compare to health tech or fintech? Is it all the same out there, or is there extra special care and feeding needed in HR?
Maybe Jeff, you could comment about your past history when you were at the Exxon.
Yeah, I think HR is less normalized than a lot of other departments. And I think it used to be the poor child of tech space. Now it's more of a, there's definitely tons of innovation that happening. So my perspective is it's the less normalized tech stack in the industry, but the most active and interactive and most innovative right now, which makes it probably one of the top challenges. As Pierre said, I started in the oil industry, and it's more products and purchases, and invoice is extremely standardized. And although it's not everything, there's 100 times more transactions anyway than with humans. So there's so much volume, and it is pretty nailed down. In the HR space, it's not. That's what makes it challenging. That's also what makes it interesting, I think, too.
You had a
Okay.
question, Lloyd?
Yeah, I've been a fan of cloud connectors for a long time, though I've never talked with anybody there. I'm in the talent acquisition space and TA tech. I'm wondering if you've got a use case, a simple, maybe not simple. What would a typical implementation be for talent acquisition as a function that either of you have done, or what you're looking forward to do in that area going forward?
That's a really great question. I can take the top of funnel side, guys, and then hand it to you. And frankly, the reason that I started the predecessor company to Joynd came after a conversation with Connexa, Ward, and learning about their backlog. I thought there really ought to be an easier way to integrate for the vendors with each other. And at the time I was at a vendor, and it was a background screening company. So that's a very typical integration is talent acquisition. So an applicant tracking system to background screening, or further up the funnel, it's applicant tracking to assessment that can be delivered during the job application process. Be a video interview implementation, implementing something like HireVue to UKG or to iCIMS or to another talent acquisition platform. Those are very typical use cases. Sourcing integration, so way up the funnel. Engagement, like where Mr. Griffin was previously at Beamery, that's becoming more and more common in the industry. So sourcing, engagement, everything during that hiring workflow.
Just to complete with our merger is now we cover most of the talent acquisition space, basically everything for cloud connectors. We do specialize in HR, but in the large realm of HR, we also have insurance and benefits that we play with, but we do have now sourcing. We work with Beamery, with Paradox. So we have now the large scale of pretty much every integration in the talent acquisition scenarios until talent is ready and employees. I don't know if that answers your question, Lloyd. Or...
It does. Thank you. It gives me the scope. I have a follow-up. Are there two-way integrations in the top of the funnel talent acquisition space where a sourcer hands off a lead or a candidate and there's an outcome on the ATS side? Does that outcome ever flow back?
It does. We do typical statuses integration is a typical case now with there's more and more thing happening within the sourcing. So if you want to align what's happening in the recruitment process within more interaction in the candidate sourcing, so we send back statuses and we align statuses bidirectionally. That's a frequent use cases to do that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Lloyd. And I see a comment from Alex in the chat. He Joynd's foray into the verifiable career credentials and the work that Velocity Network that Rick was very active in or still is. I don't know if you want to it's not a question per se, but if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, that's another very important part of not just integrations, but beyond that, especially for talent acquisition. There's a lot of time and money and despondent candidates that spend time waiting for previously validated employment and education and job credentialing or certification information to get recertified again or re-credentialed again. And the Velocity Network is an effort by major vendors and large employers globally via a blockchain provide a way for candidates, people, to own their information, their credentials. And when they apply for a job or go from one place to another or have to transfer credentials anywhere for any reason, and it doesn't just have to be HR related, job related, they can do that. They can do that by virtue of pointing effectively to the existence of an already certified or verified credential that's kept in the blockchain, not the credential, but the verification. The proof of verification is established by the blockchain. It's a very exciting initiative that's underway.
I've got a question, if I may. Sorry, my camera's not working. The market has got quite cluttered. How do you envisage this merger to differentiate? Because at the top, you've got your MuleSofts, the Boomies, then you have your Wakatos, then you have your Merge, then you have the new ones like Combo, Stack One coming in. How do you plan to differentiate your offering compared to them post-merger?
I can take this one. Yeah, a very good question, David. So the way we visualize the competitors, Merge and Combo and all that, are what they're trying to do is offer, I would say, out-of-the-box integration by providing the unified API approach is just saying, I'll standardize the HR space and try to pre-map every system and offering out-of-the-box integrations that are, the scheduling of those integrations is predetermined. You cannot redo real time. So it's fairly limited from a technical point of view. And we see it as a limited mapping because as soon as you go into the enterprise space, those pre-mapped solutions do not work. Every customer is configured separately, so they're not the solution. And what those guys offer is say, I'll offer you the pre-mapped good enough that will try to do most of the work, and then if it doesn't work, then let's go custom, and then they'll offer a services approach. So our differentiator versus all of the unified API is we're attacking the problem differently. Or a standardized data model is just a starting point, and if you want to edit, we're a pure iPaaS, and you ultimately the differentiator there is you'll actually be able to edit it for each customer, meaning it doesn't mean it's going to a separate branch and then it's basically you have your integration. It's whatever the predefined is just a standard template, and you can actually edit content without generating integration code. So that's the biggest difference versus those unified API. On the Workato front, how they're differentiating from us is what they offer is they try to say it's an iPaaS that non-developers can do, but like it's low code iPaaS, but it's still an iPaaS. So really when you do integration in the enterprise world, what it means is you're still doing integration code and each customer becomes its own little silos. So after deployment and you've done it on Workato, yes, it's a nice interface and you can have more developer with less engineer type of profiles that can do them. But after you've done a few hundred, you still have isolated integration code for each of those integration. So what we're doing, we actually separate. So how we differentiate for all those? We do a separation of code versus integration code for us is just the wire. Any customers going through that wire, it can have variable data requirements that is generated at runtime without actually generating integration code. So that's which nobody offers. The end results is you're not building, if you ever want to change, if you want to change previously deployed 100 customers, you don't have if you have the same integration, let's say you pick Workday and Beamery, you have 100 customers going through them. If the data varies, for us, it's one integration, or there might be 2 or 3 depending on data flows, but it's still one. You can, and if I want to change those, I only have 1 or 3 integration to change. The data is generated, the web services. On all the other platforms, that means if I'm changing, going to a merger and acquisition, I want to change my offering, whatever I want to change onto either sides of the house, you need to retouch everything that was done individually. That's the reality of the market. So if what is different, we're trying to attack it from a very different position of saying, no, for us, separation of code versus data is just a configuration. We do not generate code for different data requirement. We do see ourselves as uniquely position from all of those, and with the portal, what we're trying to do is offer easy distributable integration by non-coder, which is so on Workato, which it's an iPaaS for less techy developer, but you can still not give it to a very low tech person. And on the other ones, merge, all the other ones, combo, it's just basically it's you take the out of the box. If it doesn't work, and because it's not a pure iPass, it goes to somebody that will code it in the background that will create that isolated code basically on their stack. So you still have the same results as in the workout. It's just you can't even see that code. It's self-maintained. So I hope that answers the question.
And because of that unified model that you talked about, every field being standardized and already pre-met for those unified, it also means that the volume becomes a problem, right? If you want to do an initial load of 1 million transactions, 1 million records, it's going to take weeks. It's not built for that at all. And an iPass like ours, we can do it in a day, 2 days, 3 days. So that's the power of it as well. It's for volume, right? So that's why we target, fix the large and the enterprise world. That's who we've always targeted, and that's where we fit and fix the most problems. Yes.
Hey, this is Jack with Cornerstone. I work with David. Can you clarify that last point of why a unified API can't support volume like a iPass can?
Technically, I guess it could, but it's meant for, it's like I'm building a pass, and if I want to standardize the code, see it, I'm distributing the same thing over and over, including typically frequency triggers and all that. So it's the same thing, and it's meant for enabling a bunch of customer doing the exact same thing. So what it means is behind the scene ultimately is still, if for them, they build it for mass volume of doing the same thing. So if I'm getting into a super large customer, 100,000 employees, mass amount of volume, that unified API usually is not meant to handle, okay, I cannot do 20 parallel threading to reduce the load. Oh, I cannot like load 50 gigabytes of data that actually requires to do the initial load. So all those quirky things are basically not handled by those platform at this point. Can they evolve it to go? Potentially. They still have a long way to go, but because it doesn't work. And even technically, typically is you need to do, you don't technically deploy the same types of customer on the same infrastructure. It's nice to have a pure iPass that says I'm having the same use case, but I'm going to use different configuration. So all this happens behind the scene, and there, when you try to pass all the customers from 10 employee integration versus 100,000, it's a wrong design to try to say I'll pass everybody through the same thing, typically, from my perspective.
Good questions for sure. So what's coming next?
This new portal coming up in Q1, probably January, Jeff, you were saying that it's coming up. So that's the first step. But maybe also, Paul, if you can also talk about what lies ahead in 2025, 2026. Maybe less from a product perspective, but maybe more from a company perspective.
We are merging in our teams, of course. We're going to be looking to fill new positions fairly quickly, particularly in sales. We see a lot of opportunity to expand through a capital raise. We've spent a lot of time with bankers and private equity, growth equity firms, and there's a great deal of interest in the iPass space as a starter, which we're happy about, of course. And we had great familiarity with a number of the people we've been talking about, most of whom knew both of us. So we had several of the firms that we've been talking to suggest that we talk to each other, which of course we found was very funny since we already were. And we know that there's a great deal of excitement about the merger and what we'll be doing in the 12 months after. So once we have the two organizations integrated and are executing on some of the deliverables that we've mapped out, we anticipate raising capital that will go to sales and marketing and product development investments. There's, like we said, there's a great deal of opportunity within HR tech especially, and we like to exploit it. With the product that Jeff was describing and Pierre just alluded to, it's really a point in a continuum of options that we'll be offering employers and vendors. And that continuum goes from, as Jeff was describing, you can take the handles of the iPass and drive it, but it's certainly going to require more hands-on investment from vendors who do that. And that's certainly very competitive with something like MuleSoft, without having to hire nearly as many people or really any. But the portal that Jeff is describing is along that continuum, taking full advantage of the iPass, taking full advantage of the platform, but providing the vendors who use it with a non-technical, no-code solution to deploy integrations. And we know that from our discussions with vendors so far about that portal approach that Joynd was already taking, that there's a great deal of interest in that in-between solution, in between a technical iPaaS and a fully professional service provided integration as a service. Those have been really the primary choices in the market, but having a highly configurable deployment solution available to vendors who are distributing or who have the need to distribute many integrations for their growing customer base, that's very new, particularly the way this solution has been designed and how it will be made available to the market.
A very basic use case, and what our vision with the portal is full transparency for customers. So with options for customer self-service, but being able to view what integration are active, the data that is going through, view the data mapping that is used for the integration, and with the ability to change it. Simple use case with any options like that is if you want to change your integration, you've customized it, you're in the enterprise space, you have whatever you want to change it and add fields. Say, I'd like to do this. Right now is you need to go to your IT team that will do it on the iPaaS, or if you're using a vendor, but go and add it basically. Our goal is to say you open your integration, you actually view every data mapping, you pick the field that you want to add, drop it, redeploy, done. So super basic use case that nobody can handle today. It's just it needs to happen behind the scene. You need to coordinate. Our goal is to say, no, here's my data mapping, here's what I want to do, and not to get too technical, but our iPaaS allows what we do is we do data models of system, right? So I'm not talking about a basic one-to-one web service, which all the iPaaS right now, that's what those use cases they can handle because it's like a flat model. I have one web service. When you go to the enterprise space, consuming jobs, for example, from one, just a simple say, I want to come jobs from one system, send it to another. Usually it can be 20 to 30 web services, and it's pumping from a lot, merging the data and all that. So if I'm saying I want to add one field, okay, the reality is what they do on the iPaaS is they go pick which web services on the source, add the field, pump it, then somebody then say, okay, I'll merge the data from that web service with the other one, I'll transform it for the destination, and I'll send it. So a super basic thing like that. That's why customer gets frustrated and like, why the hell is it taking long? I just want one field. In the background, somebody is doing all the coding to do this. With our platform, we do relationship data modeling. So I can consume jobs from a system. It's one query. You will view it as here's the hierarchy, but you can pick whatever. It doesn't matter with the relationship and say, I want this field, search for it, drag and drop. It will actually generate the web services in the hierarchy, bring it, merge it, sending to the other one. So all those little things that occur in the background will be automated. That's the goal. So technically, that's the big difference here. So transparency, customer self-service option, viewing it. So, and being able to view in any transactions going. So which typically are not customer facing things that you give. So that's what we're trying to address.
That's amazing. And that's something not to be understated too, is having that team of experts behind the scenes, even if it's a self-service type offering for that middle market or small market. What happens when they need more or something doesn't work right? A lot of these companies out there are great and sexy technology, but they're not necessarily built to step in and really help that enterprise company, which is where the money is, of course. So it's a great model. It's flexible both ways. We have another question and probably time for maybe one more after that from Brad. Do you want to jump in, Brad?
Thank you so much for such an amazing session, and congratulations again on the merger. Sounds super exciting. I'm curious about the work that you guys are doing and integrating with products that are operating on a blockchain technology. Just for context, I'm the chief product officer and founder of a startup called Culture Mindful, and we're in the space of workplace mental health and occupational psychological health and safety. I'm curious to know how your product might fit with products that are on the blockchain. Have you guys any experience working in that space?
Oh yeah, I'm happy to take part of this, Jeff. Joynd is a member of the Velocity Network Foundation, and we've been a node operator in that blockchain network now for a couple of years, and we provide credentialing agents for vendors who need to interact with the blockchain, but don't have the time or resources to do it themselves. So we offer a solution to do that. And in addition, we provide a very easy, in fact, we're doing it for free, an open source for vendors today or new employees or students to upload or to provide already validated credentials to the blockchain. Now that's in HR for employment and education and similar, again, job certification use cases. It would depend a bit on your use case, and there's really two methods or two answers. One is technically we're well suited to interact with the blockchain network on behalf of vendors or individual contributors to ensure that to help them. And when I say help, I do it for them, enable their delivery into the blockchain of either certified documents or to make a request of whatever is happening in the blockchain, whatever the blockchain is delivering or minding as well. And then, of course, the technical part of that is actually fairly straightforward. So I don't know if that entirely answers your question or addresses it. And I don't know, Jeff, if you had any thoughts about that as well.
No, I'd be curious, Brad, to know if you have anything, what you're looking for type of thing, or what your integration question at this point with your business, if any.
Great question. I appreciate that. It's just that I'm trying to figure out the application of blockchain in the space and just trying to stay ahead of the curve, quite frankly. Initially, we might not be operating on blockchain technology, but we are asking the question right now, should we be considering blockchain technology for what we're doing? And if we're considering blockchain technology, why? And what should we be thinking about when we're thinking about blockchain technology? Because we're early stage, so there is a certain direction that our product might take for the next year or so. But then I'm just trying to avoid situations such as very typical startup challenges where you build a product over a certain period of time and then the product evolves to a certain place and then you go, okay, we got to torch this entire thing and then rebuild it from scratch. So I'm just thinking when it comes to when we think about blockchain technology and we're thinking about API integrations, where do those two worlds meet? Is that fair?
Yeah, and they really meet at the use case, right? Really well defined use case. The velocity network use case is very well. It's a bunch of use cases. It's many use cases, but each one is very precise, very specific.
Right.
And if you're building a solution on blockchain or using blockchain methodology, then that the value from having a decentralized network that and stores in perpetuity validly established facts, immutable facts or truths or information. And that's so from in our case, the employer market, we know David Nadell knows this, Ward knows this from Connexa times, that the high volume, high velocity requests for the same information over and over again, when that information cannot have changed, right? Nobody can unwork where they once worked, nor can they ungo to a college where they once graduated. And the enormous volume of those requests is literally stupid. And yet there's no way to show someone your driver's license and have that effectively convey all truths about them. So in the employment or education use case, it's so obvious.
So it's almost like a combination of effectiveness in providing truth and information, but at the same time also load balancing of the movement of information is what I'm understanding, Paul. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Awesome. And having an established underlying network is really critical. As you point out, load balancing, it's really important because the validation of certified requests or certified document information is really the critical underpinning of blockchain network, right? That's the fact that fundamental truths are managed by it are validated by each node member effectively or by some high percentage of node operators. provides the users of the blockchain with assurances that what they are using it for is being delivered without suspicion or without risk of integrity violations.
In theory, the entire resume of somebody and even their skill set could potentially evolve towards being blockchain stamped, basically, and say, I'm carrying that portfolio over, and it's all part of a validated little resume wallet that you could carry with you over your career, which...
Yeah, Aon is doing some really interesting things on the Velocity network with their assessment product. And that's different, as Jeff said, skill sets or even personality sets. It's really, they're looking at very innovative ways of using the blockchain for that purpose and in a way that'll benefit their customers.
To what you're talking about, that this concept of the verified credentials and particularly employment verifications, having that on the blockchain, because there's this dynamic that's occurring in employment screening where organizations are conducting fewer past employment verifications because of the rising costs by the work number have made that untenable for certain positions. Getting that on the blockchain and candidates being able to just enable that data to new employers cannot overstate how important that is, that because employment background screening providers are trying to step away from the work number and are looking for alternative solutions, and blockchain seems to be where that would be best.
I didn't see your name because I am driving, but I'm happy to have a call and bring in one of our principals who's most directly involved with Velocity Network, but also with some ed tech and learning blockchain initiatives as well. So happy to have a call and discuss with you what you're doing, and just be happy to listen.
That would be great. I'll take you up on that, Paul. I've reached out on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that.
Likewise.
Yep, and we're out of time. We're just at the top of the hour here. What a great discussion. Really enjoyed it. And we need more mergers so we can have these conversations more often, right? No, I'm kidding. But congratulations to both groups, certainly, and really appreciate sharing your time and your stories here, and everyone for the questions. Great to see the group together. Please do come back next time, especially the first timers who didn't get to introduce themselves. Sorry about that. But we'll certainly have some more time next week. And with that, we're going to wrap up the town hall for this week. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing everyone next week, if not before.
Thank you for having us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ward. Thank you, everybody.
Special thanks to our presenter, Pierre Rousseau, one of the founding members of the HR Tech Alliance's community platform. We truly appreciate our subscribing corporate members who provide the primary funding that powers our community platform and empowers our mission.